What's up, Mortgage Coach community? It is a busy day in Mortgage Coach land. We just had Dan Rawich going live, sharing what's happening with interest rates, short-term and long-term, at 11 o'clock. So literally 40 minutes from now, we're going to be doing the TCA a day accountability session. We're going to have Jeremy Forcier jumping in as a coach and actually providing some accountability to loan officers on doing a TCA every day and having the CMA a day conversation with realtors. So check that out literally 40 minutes from now. But for now, I wanted to bring Sosi Avila on stage. Sosi, you're an incredible mortgage coach success story. How long has it been that you've been a loan officer now? Is it 4 years?
Yeah, this is my 5th year originating.
Yeah, so 5th year. And I think it's been a couple of years now that I've been interviewing you. You're going on your 5th year and you're shooting for 100 million this year. Isn't that right?
Yeah, pretty darn close too. Right on track.
Love that. So came up a little short. I think 70 million last year, your 4th full year in the business.
Yep. 4th year, 77. I was like, darn it, almost there.
Yeah, almost there. But I mean, this is the dream, dude. You know, people get into the business. Everybody wants to be that $100 million producer. And I just feel like you're like a poster child. You've done it right. I know you're mentoring a couple loan officers right now that are going on their first year, finishing it. And as you know, I'm trying to create this playbook. Like, Mortgage Coach is important to new loan officers. What is this perfect playbook for a new loan officer? So I know you've read the LinkedIn article I recently posted. What are your thoughts on it?
I loved it. You know, it was actually, even after you sent me the text, the leadership at our company sent it out to all the loan officers just as a reminder of what some of these fundamentals are. And it was a really good read, especially coming from that aspect, right? That you feel, okay, I've done enough. Am I quote unquote categorized as new, even though I still feel new sometimes because there's always something you're learning. It was great to kind of go through it and look at it through the lens of, how do I help other people learn this? But then as well, what are the fundamentals that can apply to me and what I'm doing? So I loved it, Dave. I don't know if you want to just jump into a few things that I did like about it, but you let me know.
Well, I mean, I build this call as new loan officer ideas. And obviously that playbook has some new loan officers ideas. I'm going to put a link down below. So if you're watching this in our YouTube channel, there'll be a link to the new loan officer playbook. If you're watching this in YouTube, it'll be there. And if you're watching this live on Facebook group right now, we've got a half a dozen people live. We got Carl Draper, what's up? Kyle Draper, what's up? Eric Bibble just joined us. Drew Gellett. So dude, we're getting a nice little live audience going.
There's some great dudes too.
If you guys have questions for Sosi, put them down below. So let's get into just, what do you think for new loan officers on their first year in the business? What are some ideas? And then we'll get more into the playbook itself.
Yeah. So I'll jump into that, the overcompassing idea that I think becomes, funny to say that, right? The compass of what they're going to be looking at as far as how they're going to be navigating their first year. And that first point you did, I think, was great, right? You got to have a 100-day plan. In any new venture, you got to have a plan. You know, this year, more specifically, one of our goals is to be able to set ourselves up so that we can equate and outperform the amount of leads we get direct to consumer in comparison to our referral partners. Not because we don't want the referral partner leads, but because we want to be able to grow our business to another pillar. And so as I've been doing that with one of my marketing coaches and with great ideas, even like Deborah Bird, right? Everybody emphasizes on the first step, and it's strategy. It's make a plan, right? Know your target audience. And so I really loved how you pointed that out as the very first step. If there is not a plan for the new loan officer, don't be surprised as managers that you hear bickering, moaning, complaining, and not being valued with what you're teaching them, right? So that first 100-day plan is massive. And I do agree that it should incorporate a mixture of educating them on what the process is, both through formal education, but also through mentorship, a person to be able to go and ask questions of, and just go get some inquiry and clarities on guidelines and stuff from. All that is super important. And then the kind of that last thing you were talking about, right? Like, go out there and put it to practice after they have identified for themselves that they are going to want to do this. I think that's huge. So as far as tips go in that 100-day plan, I would say, sit down and write out what your plan is. And if you're a new loan officer and your manager just gave you a 100-day plan, awesome. Sit down, look at what that 100 plan is, identify where your strengths are going to be, identify where your weaknesses are going to be, and earmark for yourself certain topics that you're going to have to go deeper in. Those moments where rubber is going to meet the road and you're not going to want to be able to learn that, go in and go deeper, right? Sometimes it's going to be making that first phone call. Sometimes it's going to be not wanting to do the mortgage coach. Sometimes it's going to be not feeling like you're detailed enough to be able to do the technology well. Whatever the heck it is, identify your plan, identify your weaknesses, your strengths, and then from there, make sure that you patch up whatever needs to be patched up with your mentality so you can actually execute upon it really well.
Love that. In the playbook that we wrote out, I got it because I've interviewed a lot of top people that have mentored. Danny Harani was part of my research on this, and I know what Danny has trained and taught people to do. I built a playbook around a recent interview with Dave Gallegos, just because I had recently interviewed him on this topic, and he gave a lot of encompassing things. But one thing that Dave Gallegos said is they can't start until they have a list of 150 people that they're going to call, friends and family. And that part of the first 30 days is learning mortgage IQ and expanding that list to 300 people. What are your thoughts on that idea so literally by the end of 30 days, that new loan officer's got 300 people that they're going to get after? What do you think that's too many, too few? What are some thoughts on that?
I think one of the aspects there is how many of those 300 are going to answer. I can only speak to kind of what my experience was, right? As far as the core of that counsel, I totally agree with. Any new loan officer needs to have at-bats, right? That's why refi shops have at-bats for them. That's why if you're under a good team lead, they should be giving you at-bats. If you are being trained on how to go and hunt the business for yourself, his advice to go and do that is amazing, right? Because the easiest and lowest hanging fruit that you can go and try to cut your teeth on speaking sales conversations with is going to be your own personal sphere. And you should grow it. If you're not growing it, then you're making a mistake. For me, I didn't take that path, right? When I first jumped in the business, literally, I was in the marketing department of our company. I then asked one of the branch managers, hey, what do I need to do to get licensed? He told me. I went to go get licensed. Then I came back after I passed the test and I said, hey, I'm licensed. Can I start working? He said, sure. Put me in a seat, gave me, some guidelines, a laptop, all that stuff. And, for me, what he did for me was showing me how to go and get more of those at bats. So I didn't actually hit my sphere first. And honestly, I didn't hit my sphere first, one, because most of my sphere probably couldn't afford a home at that point. And two, it just wasn't my style. I don't know what it is, but I've seen a lot of millennials like me that just don't do that. And so for me, I didn't go down that path. I totally would say I wish I would have, because it would have helped me accelerate my business a lot more the first year. But I ended up just getting what we called weekend warrior packages, right? And I would get a box of like water and cookies and all that, and just go to multiple open houses that weekend. And when I would start the conversation with these agents, I'd go and I'd start this lost leads conversation. And Dave, I know you got the master of lost leads, Katie, there on your team. But that lost leads conversation allowed me to access their database. And they had a bunch of leads that they hadn't been followed up with a bunch of people that did open house visits that they never called. And they just gave me literally papers of just sign-in sheets. And I just created my CRM, put it all in there, called each one, boom, 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 boom. And I had my at-bats. And that thing grew. I mean, my database was full within just 3 months. It was insane. And so, yeah, that principle of a lot of at-bats, that's key. If you're not getting at-bats, you are not going to grow and you are not going to produce.
Yeah. And guys, so this playbook, it's meant to be simple and it's meant to be pure gold, but there are other great ideas. And what you just said was a great idea. I mean, hey, when I started the business, I started with Yellow Pages, and I was trained by Mel's Sam.
What are those?
I just dated myself. Yellow Pages, for all you new loan officers, it's a thing back in the day. And I just started calling CPAs and financial planners. Literally, punk rocker, 1987 in Huntington Beach, California. I don't even know they didn't know what I looked like, and probably wouldn't have taken a meeting if they did. And I would just call up and say, hey, my name is Dave Savage with Excalibur Mortgage. We specialize in helping CPAs and their clients with their real estate financing needs. Do you ever have clients that have a need for real estate financing or they ask you about it? And then shut up and then start navigating a conversation. So guys, the big takeaway from what Sosi just said, at bats. If you're not prospecting 2 to 4 hours a day, whether that's sphere of influence, whether that's open houses, whether that's now you Google, you could literally go to LinkedIn or Google and go CPAs and then type in the city that you live in and financial planners, realtors. So let's talk about this a little bit, Sosi, because while I think real estate agents are the alpha realtor, a referral partner, I think CPAs and financial planners are great partners. And I don't think new loan officers should be afraid of them. If they're a mortgage coach and they're, doing 20, they're advancing their belt every month, no longer than 6 weeks. Like if you're new in the business and you're not doing a TCA a day, you're not on a fast track to confidence and success. You need to be doing a TCA a day. But I literally think within 60 to 90 days, they could be calling CPAs and financial planners. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree, man. Again, I really like this article because like I shared already, it was a reminder of the fundamentals. And now I feel in my 5 years, right, there's a lot of people in their career that don't get this close to 100 million. And so I feel like I've been able to actually fast track a lot of these milestones that, not a lot of people are fortunate to have. And at each and every single one of these milestones, especially because they're so close together, it reminds me the importance of these fundamentals, right? When I read this article, yes, it is a great, simple 4 takeaway that a new loan officer can apply right away. But it's also a really great takeaway of the fundamental reminders that we need to have in any new phases we're going into. And so if I would have had this advice and taken it in the beginning, I would have had a better sphere and database to manage. Instead, I went straight realtor, right? And so my database and my lead source has grown mostly from my realtor partners. And surprisingly enough, I don't have a lot of real estate partners. I have very few that I went super deep in with right away. And so that being the case there, where I'm at now in the career is I have my team replacing me on many of the major client conversations. And it's allowing me to do what I love to do, marketing and rainmaking. And to your point there, Dave, right? I'm coming into this place where I'm having to go chase new realtors and chase new resources, right? And other pillars of the success that we build our business on, as far as CPAs, financial advisors, estate planning attorneys, and also contractors, right? So we're building our business on all that, plus the direct to consumer. I would say they're all equally as great. Realistically, though, we don't go for all of them. How do we get to all of them? Back to these fundamentals. Do we have a plan for it? Right? Have we created a strategy for it? So for me right now, like yesterday, I had a meeting with about 10 financial planners and advisors, and it was a great meeting. Right. And I went into it having to remind myself, even the night before, that I have to redo my presentation and make sure I'm speaking the right language to them. And so instead of calling myself a loan officer, I share the training I've had and became a liability manager. And I speak language that, man, if I spoke this language to some of my other partners, right? If I told my real estate agent, hey, I'm a liability manager and I cross the balance sheet to manage from assets to liabilities, they'd be like, who the heck are you? Like, what the heck does that mean? Right? If I try to say tax codes to an estate planning attorney, they'll actually know more. But if I try to say it to a different partner, it's not gonna hit the same way. And so being able to remember that we got to have a strategy to help us with each one of these is huge. And so I'll bring 2 points out here real quick. Number one, it's a mentality. I shared this before, but for me, a big hindrance of being able to go to other referral partners was this insecurity of not feeling like I was enough in regards to intelligence or ability or execution. right? I grew up in a very poor neighborhood, and I just had a post-closing call with one of my clients right before I jumped on this call. And him and I were both speaking on how in our culture, we were raised to be hard workers and save a lot of money, right? That was our typical financial advice. We were never shown how to make your money work hard for you. So for me to go to these financial advisors was always an intimidating factor. Yet now, especially after yesterday's training, I not only push myself to do it, but it brings me to the second point. We're all the same, right? Some people might have quote unquote a little bit more formal teaching than others, but literally we're all the same. We're all people trying to build a massive business so that we can grow our production, impact more families, and also help our families with the selfish why and make more money, right? Like we're all the same. And so when I'm there and I'm doing this presentation and I'm speaking their language and I'm showing them case studies that make them have a disruptor in their mind to stop thinking of me as a funder and actually see me as a liability manager who can help them convert more business at a higher level, right? When I'm having them switch that mentality over, they're asking me questions that I was surprised at. They're like, so how do we like follow up on clients better?
So, you made me think of a bunch of things right now. I'm going to pull out this guide and I'm just going to go through it because a couple things I want to do, while I wrote what I think is a pretty definitive playbook for a new loan officer that, is well researched, starts with a plan. I do think how you ask for referrals, the scripting you use is important. So I pulled from the scripting that Jeremy Forcier uses because how people ask for referrals is not equal. There are some loan officers that the way they do it, the sequence in what they do it, they get literally 10x the number of referrals. So, I've got an example here of how I think you should do that. I think you need to learn the basics, guys. And I'm a big fan of Xenix, but I'm a big fan as long as you learn the language, you learn the basics in a thoughtful way, get on it. I do think subscribing to our Rate Watch app, having it downloaded, listening to Dan Arawich every single morning is a must.
Huge.
Like that's a no-brainer for any new loan officer. You expanded this book. Like I'm going to add a few things to the book, because I always feel like what we do with our YouTube channel and our Facebook group is important. But you mentioned certified liability advisor. I don't think you need to wait till you've been in the business for 5 years to do that. I don't know that you want to do it in the first 100 days either. But you probably want to consider that within the first year. What's your take on when a loan officer should tackle becoming a certified liability advisor?
I'm in development with our own company right now in regards to this topic, because all of us have that vision, right? Dave, right? I think we all take for granted how bigger picture the vision casted in our community has actually become, right? We are not training new loan officers. Right? We are training mortgage coaches who are impacting people's family for the better. And so that being the case, this liability manager piece, it's huge. I would encourage any manager, right, who has people underneath them, just like I believe it was Jim or Dave mentioning that they do the Xenix as kind of a supplement as well to one-on-one conversations. I have personally done this with the liability manager courses, and I've used it as a supplement of conversation, and it is amazing. Right? Like if you yourself sit down and go through this with your teammates, I promise you the language that your teammates have, but most of all, the thought process they have to be strategic in advice so they can differentiate themselves. So your concessions don't keep growing more and more so that you can actually make a difference when you get compared to the better.coms or whatnot. I mean, I was in a competitive situation last Friday where this individual who's an accountant had already shopped 9 different lenders.
Ouch.
Right? 9. I was like, whoa, that's a lot of inquiries. And wow. The reality was that, gosh, everything that we've preached about here, for lack of a better term, who do you think she's working with?
So when, because you're making me think of this, I didn't even put liability advisor on the, call it version 1 of the playbook. I clearly need to add it. When do you think, it's either a milestone or a date that becoming a liability advisor should be on the checklist? What are your thoughts?
It should definitely be phase 2, right? Like becoming a loan officer is so overwhelming. I didn't even have a stinking car loan before I came licensed. The entry point to being an LO is not high. So letting these people cut their teeth on it and just learn and figure out that they have feet to be able to start walking. I think that trial period is really good, that first 100 days, if they succeed. And also if they want to, right? This business is brutal. I've told so many people, man, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, right? It's great. And I love the impact I get to have. So therefore I keep doing it. But it's also hard. Like there are so many moments where I go, oh crap, did I miss that? And then my gut drops, right? And now as I'm training new loan officers, I see them in that moment. I'm like, oh, I know that feeling, right? Like it's crazy when the pressure of this just hits you. And then you get beat up sometimes by other professionals because for whatever reason, right? We've all been there. And so one, I think it should be phase two. Phase two should be the liability manager, but the vision to become a liability manager should be inserted in the beginning.
Okay.
So the vision of what a loan officer is should always be clarified on that first day.
Yeah. And really, really good point. And I do think being a mortgage coach, just showing the cost over time, showing strategies, I'm going to say being a brown belt at mortgage coach, which is 100 TCAs. And I don't care whether that takes you got to get through the first 100 days. So, mortgage language, but at 100 TCAs, you're a mortgage coach, you're a teacher and trainer. Start thinking about that liability certification and buy black belt. You've done 100 TCAs. Again, to your point, you've got to want to do it. Guys, anybody that wants, there is a $500 discount. You use the discount code MCVIP. I'll put a link down below in the recording of this, or you can private message me in any social media platform. Facebook, I see the most often. It seems like when I get PM'd in LinkedIn, sometimes I miss them because I just get so much spam in LinkedIn Messenger. But PM me on any social media and I'll get you a link and a discount code. But it's MC VIP. It'll save you $500. I think it's a $1,500 investment. I'm also a huge fan of Zenix. Whether your company pays for it for you or you as a loan officer have to invest in yourself and pay for Zenix. I put Zenix as the first priority because learning,
100%,
having a mortgage IQ, learning the basics, that is number one. But once you become a loan officer and you've done 100 TCAs, you're a brown belt, that's a good time to do it. So let's do a closing thought here. And I want to ask you a script. I gave these scripts in the playbook where I tried to come up with really easy. So like if you're brand new in the business, call all your friends that are renters and don't say, hey, I'm a new loan officer. Who do you know that wants to buy a house? And, try to talk them into buying a house. Call them up and just say, hey, I need your help. And I want to practice this rent versus own thing. So no pressure. They're just helping you practice the skill of being a mortgage coach. Call all your homeowner friends or parents of your friends, depending on your age, and say, hey, I just need to practice this move up analysis thing. And so come into it with that script. I think that's a winning script for new loan officers. Give us your script for a new loan officer that wanted to call a CPA or financial planner and try to get a meeting. What would that sound like for Sosi?
That's really good. So the way we've been doing it, right, is first of all, there's a few there's a few mental kind of pieces I want to put into this, right? Look, whenever I call any client or whenever I'm having any type of objection type of conversation, I'm always trying to think of what's the elephant in the room, right? Because by default, anytime you hear from a salesman, you can't help but separate car salesmen. And we all know when you think about car salesmen, what are the emotions you feel? Cheater, rip me off, right? Want something selfishly. Those are always the initial emotions. So being able to understand, especially, this is where Dave, I would say on your phase two, liability manager, amplify, all those things we talked about last time, AOH, all those things I would 100% say should be maybe the second 100 days. But Renee really helps you think about that, right? Like, how is what I'm saying making them feel? And how do I interact with that to be able to get what I want? And so, again, do you want to hit CPA or do you want to hit financial advisor? Let's go financial advisor.
You pick.
Yeah, let's do financial advisor. So what we would be doing, right, is like, let's use an example, some guy named Brett. Hey, Brett, this is Sosi. Wanted to see, do you have a quick moment to chat? Yeah, this is fine. Brett, I've been looking at some of the stuff you've posted on Instagram. I really love how you're trying to impact and change the way people think about financial success. I've created a process that has helped our clients, not just in the beginning of their home ownership, but the future years after. I 100% believe that individuals need to be responsible on my end of the balance sheet for somebody's mortgage starting day one of them actually having it. But I've also identified that I need really good financial advisors to partner with this. I'd love to just get some of your thoughts on some of the resources we have, seeing the content you put out, and see how you can help us help our clients. Would you be interested in a conversation with me for about 15 minutes to kind of go over this on Zoom real quick?
Boom. So let's unpack that. And then let's also wrap this up because Sosi, I know you've got to get to another meeting. But number one, notice how he's finding financial advisors and leaders that he wants to partner with because he is a modern mortgage professional that creates media and is working hard to be the digital mayor of the markets he serves. He's looking for CPAs, financial planners, financial professionals that are also creating content and being the digital mayors of their market. And then he's calling them peer-to-peer, influencer to influencer, and he is having a conversation with them. So first of all, dude, that was rad. That was, and guys, that was not only a takeaway for new loan officers, that's a great takeaway for seasoned pros. We are going to add certified liability advisor to the new loan officer playbook. It will be for sure in the resource part at the bottom of that article. There's a bunch of resources. We'll put a link along with the discount code in there. And then I'm going to think about how to add that script because I think that's it's definitely not a first 100-day move to make, but guys, I want you as a mortgage professional, you're new to this business, start thinking of not how long have I been in the business, how many families have I served, how many total cost analysis have I done? And I don't care if you've been in the business for 10 years and you haven't done 100 TCAs, you're not a mortgage coach. And if you haven't done 300, you're not a black belt. So I really, my goal at Mortgage Coach is to elevate the industry and to turn loan officers into mortgage coaches, but to turn them into a mortgage coach that is the most valuable advisor to a family. Like I'm competing with CPAs, financial planners, and attorneys so that when that loan officer has a financial conversation with the consumer, they crushed the CPA. They crushed the financial advisor with value and insight that helps that family build wealth and helps that family achieve financial freedom. So, Sosi, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, brother. Any closing thoughts before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I'll throw one thought out. In our industry, we always got something to say. The thing I would just encourage everyone, if you're starting off day one, or if you're on day one of a new milestone and a new phase of your business, realize that and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong here. I feel like when I first came into the mortgage coach world, there was a lot of training on how to help me be a better salesman. And I don't know if it's just because I've grown and I now see it differently, or if there has been a change in just even the emphasis and style that this community has taken. But what I see now is that all of us here are sharing best practices of how to be amazing business owners. Right. And amazing business owners of a business that actually does amazing things for other people. So my takeaway would be day one loan officer, consider what your business is going to be and consider the fact that you're going to be doing some sales. But if you're truly trying to be an independent loan officer, you got a business. So you better start making your business plan. And anybody who's in the phases, look back and see if your business plan is clear enough to be able to replicate, because if not, you got some holes. And then make sure that the next step is going to be able to be scaled as well so that you can actually have success. And a big aspect of this, I say this all because as we talked about that this is phase one, and then afterwards there's more to be able to generate leads with one another. The majority of my business comes from less than 10 agent partners, right? Like that's it. And every time I share that, it is surprising, but that's happened because in the relationships we have built, they've always been business to business relationships and being able to help each other with lead generation, lead conversion, lead nurturing, and future business growth, right? That's what it is. And that's what we have here at Mortgage Coach. That's what we have here as a community and members. And so I want to make sure everyone remembers that because I think it's a real beautiful thing.
We started this interview and this conversation around new loan officers' ideas. I'm going to keep that as the title, but really this is new loan officer leadership. And I love how you started, like, hey, when you start, you got to start with the mindset of being more than a loan officer. Become a mortgage coach, become a certified liability advisor, and then you close it out with become a business owner. Like, look at your, this sustainable mortgage practice that you're building. And anyways, dude, you're an inspiration to me. I know you're an inspiration to, hundreds of loan officers that want to build an amazing career. Congratulations on going on your fifth year in hitting that 100 million mark. So pressure on, brother. You need to hit 100 million this year. And I'm looking forward to our end of year interview.
Same here.
Regardless of whether you come up short or you surpass it, I'm looking forward to just keeping your story alive in the mortgage coach community, brother.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that.
All right. Have an awesome day, brother. Take care, man. Thanks for making time for the community.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right. Take care.